Good morning, Masters, and good morning, Writing Forums, everybody on the forum today. Masters, I wanted to answer your thread specifically via a video today because you've got a lot of questions, and I see your wish list there. And I also work on a Mac, and given the questions that you're asking and the things that you're looking for, it seems like you have a writing process that is at least similar to my own. So I wanted to show you what I use. First and foremost, I'm not the best tutorial maker, so apologies in advance if there is any stuttering or any pauses or I get lost on the screen. You may hear farm noises in the background. I live in the country. Okay, so I'm looking at your page here. I'm looking at your thread. You've already let me know that you've been making use of keynotes to be able to do a flowchart for your plot. You use Pages, which is the word processor that comes with Mac as far as actually writing out your scenes or chapters, and that you're using iCloud to keep all these things synced across your devices. So you're already letting me know that the particular system that you've created for yourself, you're looking for something a little better, maybe something a little more streamlined that works a little better for you as opposed to you for it. I'm noticing in your second part, you found it cumbersome to rename your files, to change the order that the chapters are flowing in, and also you want to be able to know your overall word count in an easier fashion. The word processor that I'm going to show to you is Scrivener. So I know you're probably thinking, I don't want to use Scrivener, it looks too complicated. I'm going to show you why it's really not that complicated. I think Scrivener gets too much of a bad rap for its quote-unquote learning curve. It's actually a whole lot easier than people make it out to be, or than sometimes it looks when you first look at the program, because unfortunately, oftentimes when you go looking for these kinds of applications on the internet, people will show you images for Scrivener that look like this, and you're looking at this and thinking, well, what is all that mess on the screen? That doesn't even look like a word processor to me. I certainly don't want that. And I can absolutely understand that. Or you look at screens and you see something like this, and again, you're thinking, that is just way too complicated. That is not what I'm looking for. And again, I completely understand if that's not what you're looking for. The thing to remember with Scrivener is that, number one, unlike MS Word, that it's also a very multi-purpose tool. MS Word attempts to serve many different purposes. If you look at your MS Word, it's got a huge array of different features, most of which have nothing to do with the creation of a manuscript for people like us, for authors. Everything inside of a Scrivener application is specifically geared toward us. What's nice about Scrivener is that you pick and choose the tools that make sense to your personal writing process. So those images that I just showed you, a lot of times what happens is that people are trying to show you all the different things that you can do with it, all in one picture, to try to get it all on the screen at the same time. And that ends up being a little self-defeating in my opinion, because the program can actually be much more streamlined than that, much simpler than that. My personal writing process is actually pretty simple, I think. I don't have a great deal of complexity when it comes to my writing process. I'm going to show you what my Scrivener screen looks like. And you're going to think, well, that's not what I'm accustomed to seeing. And you're right, it's probably not what you're accustomed to seeing. This is how I want Scrivener to look. And it can look even much simpler than this. And I've got another video that I created that I'm going to link below to show you how to modify the screen to be however you want it to be. Now, as far as the questions that you asked, let's get to those. I'm going to go back into your like I said, sorry for the pauses. Okay, so one of the questions that made me think, well, I think Scrivener is going to be the best thing for Masters is when you asked for chapters kept as individual documents within a story project with the ability to drag and drop the chapters to change the order. That is, in its most basic format, the description of how and why Scrivener exists as an application. Scrivener is most certainly a word processor, but it is also, and its key feature is that it is an organizational platform. So when you talk about being able to keep your stuff organized, that is this area over here. This is the binder. You're going to see that you're going to see some yellow things, some red things, and this is a brown background. All of these colors and stuff, you can change all this. It can be whatever you want it to be. And if you want to know how to do listings, I can show you that as well. So we see that in this particular project, I've got things split up as Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. And within these different acts, there are folders and there are what look like subfolders. And that's exactly what they are. Each of these folders is a chapter. And inside of each of these chapters, there are scenes. And you can have as many different scenes inside of a chapter as you want, which allows you to be able to break down the writing in a way that makes sense to you. You can move these within this outline anywhere you want when you decide that, well, I need a chapter to come in between this chapter and that chapter. You move them with these buttons right here. You can color these chapters, or label them is what Scrivener calls them, so that they represent things that make sense to you. In my particular case, the colors that you see here in my chapters and in my scenes have to do with who the POV character is. This particular story is written in third person close serial, so that the chapters change from one POV person to another. Yellow is Tevin, red is Bren. As you can see in this chapter right here, I've got the chapter itself is red, but then I've got a red scene and a yellow scene. I'm not 100% sure whether I want this chapter to be from one person's POV or another, and I've written it kind of in both ways to feel out the chapter, see whose POV I think would be best to show that. You can create new documents inside of a chapter, like see this chapter here is called the Delphi. You can create a new scene just by adding and away you go, typing your new scene. Another thing to know, everything that you see on the screen in Scrivener can be modified so that it works easily for how you want to look at it. And it's got absolutely no effect on what your output is when you compile and you create your document that you're going to send out, your manuscript. So if you're like me, I'm a little older, I'm pushing 50, I need the on-screen font to be a little bigger. Working with a 12 font is a little difficult for me to see. So I've got it set to an 18 font. That's got absolutely nothing to do with the output font when I create the document that this project equals. I use the standard Shun manuscript format, and it's Courier, it's 12 point, it's double spaced, and it will always be like that. And nothing I do to the screen will change that. I can increase this font if I want. I can do anything I want to it. I can make it bigger. I can change the color for it. I can change the actual font itself. I can make it be whatever I want it to be to make it easier for me to look at. And again, the output will always be the professional standard output that you expect to have to give to a publisher. That always remains as a separate and untouched situation. Now, you talked about wanting to be able to keep track of your word count on your project. You can do that with Scrivener. It's got a really great feature for that. You can come up to project. And again, you're on a Mac, so everything that you see here should be exactly what you expect to see on your Macintosh computer. I haven't upgraded to Sierra yet. I'm on the one from before that. I forget what it's called. But you go to project, and you go to project statistics. And here is the word count, the character count, pages, if it were arranged as a paperback, pages as they would be printed out on regular 8.5 by 11. You can also follow along simply with your word count inside of the actual file that you're working with itself, and that will just follow along with you as you're typing. So every scene will give you its word count as you go along. Its character, its word count. You can go to the chapter. It will give you that. Let's go to one that has more than one scene. This chapter has 4,000 words in it, but this one scene here has 794 words in it. And again, you can go and check the entire project to see what your word count is. So it does that very easily. My computer's hanging up. I'm not sure why it's going so slow. Now, another thing to know is that this toolbar up here, okay, that you're seeing, this is, unlike MS Word, you can modify this toolbar to show the tools that make the most sense for you. Okay? You go to View, go to Customize Toolbar, and these are all the different icons that can exist in the toolbar. All of these options are always available to you through the regular drop-downs. That never changes. That's always the way it normally is. But if you want your shortcuts and you want to be able to see the tools that you use, the things that make sense to you in your writing process only, you can absolutely modify this toolbar here. You can take tools away, you can add tools to it. Mine is a little bit modified in that I have these arrows here, which are the arrows that you use to move the different documents around, or the different scenes or chapters within the binder itself. I wanted those to be available. They're not there automatically when you open the program. So I added these. I took away some that just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They're just not part of my writing process. And I streamlined my toolbar down to something that made more sense to me as an individual. The tools are always here. It's not like you're throwing them away and you can't have access to them again. You can always put them back, but you can just take everything off your work surface that you don't want to deal with, and you just deal with the things that make sense to you. You can sync all of this across iCloud and Dropbox. I use Dropbox, by the way, as you can see right here. Since you're using a Macintosh, the files are saved in a Scrivener specific file, which is just a container file, and you simply put that inside of your Dropbox folder, and then there is a Scrivener application specifically for the iPhone. Not sure what portable platform you use, but the iPhone did recently come out with their Scrivener application. And what's really nice about it is that in the past you had to you kind of had to do a rigmarole of exporting the files into an open file format that then some other application could have access to, but they decided that they were going to make a Scrivener for iPhone, and it makes use of the exact same Scrivener file. So everything syncs across the one file, just like you're accustomed to with a Pages document or with a Keynote document. And you have access to everything, and everything plays along really nicely. What else did you have here? Renaming your files, calculating overall word count. The simple formatting, this is a pretty simple word processor, to be honest with you. If you want to see how even simpler it can be, you can see that it's very simple. It's a word processor like any other word processor. It's not some I don't know why Scrivener gets such a terrible rap as far as being so complicated and so difficult to use. It's actually extremely easy to use. As you can see, I'm an aficionado. I've been using Scrivener since it first came on the market, and it was only available for Macintosh. That's actually reason number one why I thought Scrivener would be terrific for you, because it is unashamedly, unabashedly Macintosh. A lot of people don't like it because a lot of the features are very Mac-ish in their nature, and it doesn't try to hide its Mac background. It is a Mac application that finally was released for Windows. So you're going to find an application that looks the way you expect a Macintosh application to look, that works the way a Macintosh application works. The things that you're looking for are going to be under the drop-down windows that you're accustomed to seeing, in the names that you're accustomed to seeing them. So it's for a person who uses the Mac. I think that Scrivener is a particularly terrific tool for any writer who has a process similar to what I'm seeing from the questions that you asked. I think that Scrivener is a robust program to be able to give you what you want. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to help you along. And that was me for today. I hope you have a great day, Masters. Thanks a lot.